Yeah, so I'm going to start off with prayer. Thank you, Father, for this time to meet, and thank you for this group, and bless this word and let it be received with an open heart. In Yahuwah's name I pray. Amen. Okay, now you can go.
Okay, so we nearly a year ago, we did the topic, why did he have to die? And people still were left with saying, when am I going to answer the question? So whatever I said during that time was unhearable, unfathomable, or perhaps I didn't even address it, though I thought I did. But the question of why did he have to die could be answered doctrinally, which is to say, for the last 2,000 years since Yeshua walked the earth, was crucified, resurrected, floated up into the clouds, into the heavens, and the angel said he's coming back. People have speculated, wrestled, killed each other over the question, who was he, what is he, and why did he die? And so they came up with reasons, doctrine. The reasons they came up with, some of those were based on things the disciples and apostles said. Some of those things were based on reason and logic. So I'm working out of town at the moment. I'm up here in Washington State, and there's a guy helping me. And I was just kind of kidding around. I don't know this guy. I've never worked with him before. I know who he is, but I've never worked with him. And I said, well, did you smoke some sage? Did you burn some sage this morning? Get rid of the weird spirits so that we can have a successful job today. And he says, no, I don't do that. I said, well, good. I'm just kidding. But we should at least invoke Yahuwah, his attention and his to strengthen us and to help us so that we don't injure ourselves or cause any damage or do anything goes wrong. We should at least invoke his assistance and attention here today. And he said a question that, as I said a moment ago, hit me like a sledgehammer. He said, who is Yahuwah? So that question, who is Yahuwah? In that is the answer, why did he have to die? In that is the explanation as to why does everything in this universe appear as it does. Yahuwah is not just the expression, the pronunciation of the four-letter sacred name, that what's called tetragrammaton is Greek, tetra meaning four, gramma, where we get the word grammar, where we also get the word graphic, means things that are written. So 4 letters would be tetragrammaton. I remember, and I say that because people who don't know the subject matter, I remember hearing the phrase tetragrammaton decades ago. Didn't really know what it was about. The Jehovah's Witnesses are all about the tetragrammaton. You'll see pictures referencing buildings with these 4 Hebrew letters written, always in modern Hebrew. The Jews don't allow anybody to speak the name. In fact, they say it's absolute blasphemy for a human to try to express and to wrap his filthy lips around this sacredly clean, holy. Of course, that's a profane word in and of itself. It's English. There's a goddess in India named Holy, so people make that association. Don't say that word, but gosh, if the angels flying around the throne can say holy, 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 why shouldn't humans be able to say holy, holy, holy? Because they're not saying it. They're saying, according to scripture, kadosh, kadosh, kadosh.
Eric.
Or someone was suggesting that perhaps, because we don't know what the vowel points are. There was no vowel points, nikud, dots and lines under the letters. That's the vowels. So paleo is just all the 22 letters. And so maybe they're saying kiddush, kadash, kadosh. Maybe it's past, present, future. Maybe it's not just 3 iterations of the exact same phrasing. I don't know. But the idea is that only in Hebrew is the pure, call it the sacred, the clean, the actual words spoken, written by the finger of Elohim on the tablets of stone given to Moshe on Mount Sinai. Only in Hebrew is the most ancient, most correct, most authentic declaration of who is Yahuwah, that being the name he gave himself in Exodus 3, amongst other places. That's the first order where he gave himself a name that we're told of anyway, specifically, that he expressed his identity and his intent is in these Hebrew letters. So the answer, who is Yahuwah, can only be explained with a degree of accuracy by looking at Hebrew. When you change the words from Hebrew into Greek or Latin or English, Spanish, French, Russian, Chinese, Japanese, any other language, it's completely wrapped through, filtered through human consciousness, not understanding or giving a degree of understanding that, like in, what is that animal? Well, that's a dog. Or is that a perro? Or is that a kalev? Or other languages, pooch. It's like, what is that? Adam's first job was to name the animals. How did he do it? So the body of Adam, made out of the dust of the earth, is basically like a hardware of a computer. The software, the programming that was put in Adam's mind into getting his brain to function would have had to been the Hebrew language. When Yahuwah breathed into Adam, Genesis chapters 1 and 2, when he breathed into Adam the breath of life, that would have been like plugging your computer into the wall and energizing it. It's electricity. Just to get things breathing and moving and the heart pumping and circulating and everything functioning. But he had to install in Adam's mind some operating system. It had to be Hebrew. That's what Adam used to name the animals with. So how much Hebrew did Adam know? Was Adam given a written list of 22 letters? There's no way to know. The only way for Adam to assemble various names, each animal, that each fish, each bird, each tree, we still are about the business of naming things. Mountains, rivers, stars, gadgets, verb functions. Language is all a list of labels, identifying this action compared to that action, this thought compared to that thought. Numbers, quantity, quality, everything is just a list of labels, all having to be accomplished with these 22 variables. So Adam had to be given that. People, scientists, really smart guys say that written language came years later. And the written alphabet, they say, the Semitic alphabet, that was basically attributed to the Phoenicians about 1000 BC, the city of Byblos, which is why it's called a Bible, and Biblia is the Spanish word for book. Well, what they do before 1000 BC? There was cuneiform, kind of the area of Turkey, Assyria, northern Iraq. And the Egyptians had hieroglyphics, but it was not the same as the Semitic alphabet. But if Adam was given the Hebrew language, how could it not be written? Would Elohim have given Adam his mind wrapped around 22 letters that he could speak, that he would have to make a distinction in his mind between the phonetic sounds. Dag, we would call it DG, as in Dagwood, you know, that cartoon Blondie with her husband Dagwood. Dag, Dalet Gimel is the word for fish. Well, that's two consonants, what we would call the phonetic of D and G, Dalet and Gimel. You reverse those, you get GD, where we come up with the word God. It means fortune, destiny, luck. And it was that was turned into the name of a Canaanite deity, God. But Yahuwah never declared that to be his name. So for people to say God is God, I've heard that spoken many times. Absolutely not true. Well, it's true if you filter the real truth through layers of permutations of different language, culture, belief, doctrine, protocol, Greek, Latin, English, various different layers upon layers of overlays. So where's the truth? So if the truth goes back to the most ancient fundamental beginning, Elohim may not have given Adam the thought, hey, why don't you write this down? But he certainly had access to the 22 letters, because that's the full set of components by which the description of everything that exists is composed of. When Yahweh told Moshe, write these words, he told him to write them on a scroll. He told him to put plaster on a rock and write the words clearly legible. I'm going to choose to believe that it was Yahuwah that invented it, that it was Yahuwah that gave at least the phonetic sounds of letters to Adam, by which the entire experience of life on earth could be organized, indexed, cataloged, identified, declared, fathomed, because his brain was built fit to suit to fit the 22 letters. Every word then spoken from the mouth of Elohim is composed of these 22 Hebrew letters. So the clearest that anything he ever said about himself is either manifest in creation, by which we then, by human mind agency, have to interpret, or what am I looking at? What am I seeing? Or it's exactly the 22 letters themselves. But then if you go back to the book of John, chapter 1, verse 1, in the beginning was the Word. The Word was with Elohim. The Word is Elohim, was Elohim, past, present, future. And then through this Word, everything was created. Then if we as scientists want to analyze the structure of the physical universe, it's composed of the letters of this alphabet. If the 22-letter Hebrew alphabet is actually the Word, so then for the Word to become flesh, human, the Word anthropomorphized into the human being, that one we identify with the label Yahusha or Yahushua or Yahshua, depending on where you want to put the vowel phonetic of the U sound. Yod, He, Vav, that would be Yahu, Shin, Ayin, Shah. That's the way I regard it. Book of Joshua, right after Deuteronomy, that's the way his name was spelled. Yod, He, Vav, Shin, Ayin. 5 letters. The point is, if he is the Word, the 22-letter Hebrew alphabet, walking around looking like a human, when he said, I am the door, nobody gets to the Father except through me. Oh, that man, we got to somehow, how do you get through that man? Do you befriend him, and in through his mind he says, oh yes, I recognize you, I'll let you in? Is that what he means? Or does he conduct his life in a certain way, and if you imitate that way, then he says, oh yes, walking this way manifests some kind of a portal and you get access? Is that what he mean? If a man says, I am a door, you got to go through me. Now, if you go to a nightclub and there's a bouncer, some big guy standing at the door that'll beat up any adversaries. In football, it might be a scrimmage line with a bunch of big guys, and you got to get through them to get to the running back, the quarterback. That's a physical, bam. See who can get through. Can the linebacker break through if the other guy's pushing it? What is he talking about? I am the door. It's poetic. It's maybe esoteric, hidden knowledge, but what the heck is he saying? What if he's the word of Elohim saying, I am the door? What if it's not the man? What if it's the word telling us through the voice of the man, I am the door to the house of Elohim? The Hebrew language, the Hebrew alphabet, the word of Elohim is the door to Elohim. That paints a whole different picture of reality. Oh, well, you can't discount the man. I'm not discounting the man. I'm giving the man's words great regard. He pointed us to the Father. He never said, worship me, I am your God. Never said those words. So this conflict is of who is Yeshua? How was he born? Why did he have to die? Is wrapped up in his identity. But if Yeshua and Yahuwah are exactly the same, then who is Yahuwah? Well, look at Yeshua. There he is. Is that true? Is that true? I've heard some people say Jesus is the Father. So you see that kind of a cartoon, Yeshua at the rock praying in the Garden of Gethsemane saying, hi, Dad, it's me. You. What? Why is it so confusing? Because he made it confusing. He made it confusing on purpose because he built the human mind. Like I was saying, the human mind was composed to handle these 22 letters in the sequence, the chronological order, by which we can look at nature, by which we can hear his voice, by which we take all inputs of our five senses, process them with our computer processing, organize them like indexing, order and row. That's actually the word Eric, Ein Resh Kaf. So Erictology is that act of taking in information, organizing in such a way that it makes sense, that we can appreciate its value, what it is. So the word Eric, Ein Resh Kaf means assess, appraise, evaluate, determine something's worth. Is this bogus? Is this true? So looking at the alphabet, the Hebrew alphabet, is the clearest, cleanest indexing way to take any question. Even if you want to study black holes in outer space, do they exist? What the heck does the Hebrew alphabet have to do with determining the nature of black holes? Well, that's the mystery. How do you do that? I believe that's where the answer is. But what I'm saying is, looking at the Hebrew alphabet is the mechanism to answer every question, including who is Yahuwah, why did Yeshua have to die, and what is the relationship between Yahuwah and Yahusha? How do they fit together, and how are we supposed to regard them, is all fit to the 22-letter Hebrew alphabet, because that is the set that Yahuwah gave Adam, by which to perceive, receive input, organize, and establish understanding for everything on the face of the earth that he was about to encounter. So fundamentally, for me to say, who is Yahuwah? He's not just the guy who gave us the 22 letters of the alphabet as a toolbox, as the software. But the only way he can be identified is by those 22 letters, in those 22 letters. So I can look at the 22 letters in sequence. And I say that because they're not random order. They're very specific sequence. The 22 letters, Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet, Hey, Vav, Zayin, so forth. That was his declaration. And if he only gave Adam the verbal phonetic to begin with, and it wasn't until approximately 1000 BC, which was approximately the era of David, 500 years earlier, which would have been the days of Moshe. Moshe was writing. So the scientists telling us that the Semitic alphabet was developed in Byblos, the Phoenician city, 1000 BC, is just totally wrong. It would have been at least 1600 BC, approximately, Moshe writing all the words of Yahweh right there in, was it Exodus, I think, chapter 17, I think it was, before Yahweh even spoke the 10 commandments, or it was right after that, maybe Exodus 20, 21. It was 7 chapters before Yahweh wrote with his finger on the tables of stone. 7 chapters before, Moshe was told to write all the words of this Torah on a scroll. So writing was not initiated by Yahweh's finger on the tables of stone. So the people tell us that Enoch has this or that to say, that the Phoenicians did this or that. They're wrong. Bad information. For us to sit here and say Yahuwah has identified himself not just with these 22 letters, but by the 22 letters themselves. So as we are studying, looking at the letters, we're actually looking at him. Just like looking at nature, we're saying, what did he put in nature? So if everything can be boiled down to the relationships of each letter to each other, thus the spelling of words, the naming of the animals, you look at nature and say, gosh, there's so many different things. Stuff in outer space, there's the trees, there's the bugs, the fish, the clouds, the rocks, but they all basically come out of the 22 letters. So there are fractal patterns. Fractal patterns meaning, I recommended to a few people a week or two ago, Pyramid K, YouTube. A guy has proposed this is how they built the pyramids. Really interesting. And he was saying that the Egyptians had, was it 3 or 4 sacred numbers? There was pi, 3.14, relationship of a circle with its radius, circumference, and area. There's the letter phi, phi, which is the Greek letter for the golden mean. There was another letter, was it 52.4 or whatever? I forget what that one was about. But then there was this other measurement. In America, we use inches, feet, yards, miles. The rest of the world uses the metric system. And who came up with the metric system? Well, this fellow was saying that the metric system was used to build the pyramids. And it's like, how do they know about that? Because 1 drop of water, take your finger, you take a pencil, you put 1 drop of water on a resilient surface, and that water drop will always end up being exactly 1 centimeter wide. I never knew that. 100 centimeters is 1 meter. There's the royal meter. And they use that as the fundamental unit of measurement for the entire pyramid, not only in Egypt, but other building structures all around the world. So this guy's suggestion was that the same Egyptians that built the pyramids came to Guatemala and Indonesia and were responsible for like the weird corners of Machu Picchu. They figured out how to do all this stuff. But Khufu, the main pyramid, used phi, pi, in the meter based on the size of a water drop to give a message, a story about understanding the analytics of how the universe was built. Is that true? Scientists that say everything evolved from a little dot and there's no organization, no intelligent design, have a greater voice that's regarded by academia and other scientists around the world for many years than anybody who thinks this way. They think that everything just evolved. It was all random, purely chance. It was just like, gee, look at the way things are. And it's like, I think that's insane idiocy to think that. That's my personal regard, that the idea that we could boil everything down to say that Yahuwah is the one who built everything according to mathematical, geometric relationships, fractally going back to this pattern embedded in the Greek figure pi and phi, the size of a drop of water, and the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet, which themselves have to be arranged according to pi and phi, because they would have been the source of even mathematics, means that by studying the Hebrew alphabet is the study of everything that matters, even the identity of Yahusha and the identity of Yahuwah. So this study, just so you know, the study of the Hebrew alphabet is the root source and the pinnacle of everything that matters. I mean, I don't know how many glowing poetic words I could use to express what this study actually is. But where I'm driving with this thing is that if everything goes back to the fractal pattern, then I can say, why did Yeshua have to die? That somehow it is explained in the 22-letter sequence. So what I said before, last year when we addressed this, if I look at the letter set, Aleph, I will, first person self-referential of identity and intent. Well, who? What person? Whoever wrote the alphabet is represented by that Aleph. Okay? Well, why did he come up with this alphabet? That's on the other side of Aleph. Why does Bereshit, the first letter of the first word in Genesis, start with the letter Bet? Because this is what's manifest. This is what's composed, cosmos, matter. Betness is object, noun, existence. Aleph is the silent letter, so it's immaterial, it's unknowable, it's unspeakable. It's the reference of Elohim that starts with the letter Aleph. So even time and space is this side of creation. So whatever, whoever, however, his thoughts were, his motives were, his reasons were, that's unknown to us. It's the silent Aleph. And everything I was projecting a few weeks ago, we did another talk, I was saying that if I looked at a coordinate graph, Cartesian coordinate as it's called, you've got this vortex of x and y axis, and the middle point is called the origin. It's, if you have x, y, z, 3 dimensions, it's called 0, 0, 0, the origin point. So you've got positive Aleph on the x-axis, positive Aleph on the y-axis, positive. Then you got Aleph on the z-axis, and you can plot a point somewhere in space. But the idea is to say, yeah, but the other side of the origin point, let's suggest there's an equal negative side to balance, like the keel under a boat, and can that be identified? And I was looking through Isaiah and talking about that. That's that concept. That's all just conjecture of seeing this balance of the way things are manifest based on the way things have to be built. So if we just look at the positive Aleph and say, well, Aleph through Aleph Bet. If Aleph is I self-reference, I am, I will. Bet is the materialized cosmos. Okay, so then I can say, well, I will make. I am the guy who made this universe. Aleph Bet. Okay, what about Gimel? Well, Gimel is a verb action. Gimel means camel, Bet means house, but house is a structure, a built. Gimel is a verb action, a living thing that moves back and forth. Okay, Dalet. Dalet's a door. I am the door. What door? Door. What does door mean? Door means you have a choice, in or out. A door is like coming up to an intersection in your vehicle and you say, should I turn right or left? You have a decision to make. Decision starts in English with the letter D. There's something to that. We can analyze the English language and look at words that start with different letters. There's something to that. It's not necessarily 100%, but there's a lot going on with that, just so you know. What about the letter Hey? Hey is to reveal. They say it's breath. They say it's window. It's used as a prefix letter, meaning the. It's pointing to. It's specifying. So it's kind of enlightening to information. Vav is a connection. If Hey is to enlighten and Vav is a connection, then that means somebody who has to make, I'm now reading into the alphabet, somebody who has to make a decision. Well, who's making a decision? Somebody in motion. What's in motion? The bet. Okay, so bet in the Paleo Hebrew looks like an embryo shape. The head, the backbone, the tail, like a tadpole. Okay, that's a place of birth. So bet can mean the cosmos, but if bet is also like this tadpole, it's to embody, it's to become a body. It's to have the aleph, the essence of self, stuck into a body, gimmeling, traveling, traversing, negotiating. Dalet? Well, if Dalet is the earth, let's just say Dalet's the earth. Tetra, 4. Dalet, 4. Dalet is the fourth letter. Dalet is fourness. North, south, east, west. Winter, spring, summer, fall, 4 seasons. Solid, liquid, gas, plasma, 4 states of matter. So I can equate for the moment fourness with earthiness. It's just an esoteric, esoteric means hidden knowledge. Exoteric is something open that you can see plainly. So you got to read into it a little bit. That would be esoteric. And then Hey is to reveal. So one put into a body, the aleph essence of self, of being, put into a body, Bet, who then is running around the earth, gimmeling the Dalet. Doing what? Just living. Only we're not just living. Yahuwah gave humans a set of instructions. Right there in the Garden of Eden, he said, you can eat of all this fruit, but don't eat that one. What? Suddenly a rule. That's the Hey. Here you are, gimmeling the Dalet, but hey, if you eat this fruit, that's right, Vav, connection. If your mouth connects with this fruit and you eat it, Zion, you're dead. Chet, offense, number 8. Offense or a grave or the kingdom of heaven. It's all these things. You see, there's so many different ways to read the alphabet, but if right there in the first 7 letters, he said, you can run around the earth and eat anything you want, but if you eat this tree, you're dead. Why did he do that? Why did he do that? Well, now you're asking for what's on the other side of Aleph. What's on the other side of Aleph is, why did he make the sky blue and the grass green? Because it works. Because he wanted to. Wait a minute. Why did he want to? I mentioned before, I was looking at the word for footstool, because there's a verse in the Bible that says, heaven is my throne and earth is my footstool. And I picture a guy sitting on a big chair, and he has his feet up on something, what we might call an ottoman, like the Ottoman Empire, Turkey from a couple thousand years ago. It's like, what does that got to do with that piece of furniture? Nevertheless, that's the globe of the earth. The globe of the earth, or is that, or it's a big pizza pie pan that he has his feet on, supported on a couple, some pillars underneath the legs to hold it up, elevated with the seat of his chair. Really, does he have a body where he sits in a chair? He who had to invent the body, what did he do before he invented a body? I thought he was a nebulous spirit. Another matter. But the point is, he had to invent himself a body and give himself a leg with a foot so that he could invent an ottoman, the world, the earth, and stick his feet up on it. Ha! Now I can rest my feet while I'm sitting on my throne, looking out over nothingness, because nothing else exists yet. Scanning the horizon of tohu vebohu, formless and void. I'm just trying to say, let's just try to stage this a little bit. So I looked up, I thought, oh, I wonder what the word for ottoman or footstool is in Hebrew. And it said, footstool is the place you put your feet. Oh, well, duh. Gosh. Like the guy who goes to the doctor, he says, something's wrong with my arm. Every time I do this, it hurts. And the doctor says, well, quit doing that. It won't hurt. Silly human logic. What I'm saying, if the immaterial Great Spirit decided to go for a walk, where? He has to invent a place. He has to invent himself a foot so he could have a way to walk. Why am I saying this? Why did he name this planet, what we call a planet, why did he call it Eretz? Aleph, Resh, Zadi. Well, Aleph is a prefix letter. It means I am or I will. Resh, Zadi is a word that means run. It's a sprinter on a track. It's a postal courier on a route, going on a certain routine from this house to this house to this house, delivering mail. It's to do something as a certain regimen. Well, the word Eretz, Aleph Resh Zadi, is literally where we get the word earth in English, because the word, the phonetic Zadi, capital T, lower Z is the way that I write that. It's a TZ sound. It was turned into TH. Sometimes the letter Tav is pronounced as a TH. Sometimes the Zadi is a TH. Changing up language. But the idea that I can simply say, he named this place Eretz. Why? So this whole thing is just a study of language. And for me to look at Eretz and say, Aleph, I will run. I will run. Why did he name this place, I'm going to go for a run? Because he wanted to go for a run. That's all we can say. There's no other mysterious doctrine about it. I wanted to go for a run. So he had to build himself a place to run and then give himself a foot, a gimel. He had to materialize, a gimel foot, so that he could place it onto the dalet and go for a run. And where's he running? He's going sightseeing. Where? The place he made, right here. Trees and bugs and animals and humans, stars and clouds, waters. I can prove this by looking at some other words, which we'll do here in a few minutes. I'm not sure where we are for time, Kurt. You'll have to let me know because I don't see a timer on the screen. But the idea that he said, I'm going to go for a run. Well, why? It's in the letters of the alphabet. So if he's going to go for a run, and it includes Hey, Vav, Zion and put to death. Why would he include going for a run, which includes being put to death? Now let's back up. 2,000 years ago, people were discussing, especially at the Council of Nicaea, the 325, 321, 325. It's easy to remember 321. That's the year with Constantine, Council of Nicaea. They formulated many of the church doctrines that we still hold to today. They formulated them. Doesn't mean they're accurate or true. It means just what they came up with, and that became church history, church doctrine. But there was quite contention about saying, is this Jesus? That's where they came up with kind of determining his name also. Is this Jesus fellow, is he pure human? Is he half human, full God wrapped up in a human? The idea, why would he have to die? Why does Hey Vav include Zion? death. And then Het could be read as a tomb, a grave. Tet is, like I say, it's the round rock that's rolled in front of the tomb that they happen to bury Yeshua in back there 2,000 years ago. But Tet doesn't mean a round rock. Tet, by definition in the dictionary, is a full basket, a round basket. Baskets are generally made round. Baskets can be made any shape. So they're general ideas. A basket. What do you put in a basket? We in America don't necessarily use baskets so much anymore. We use buckets, we use bags, we use boxes, not so much baskets. A different primitive culture. But the point is, you put in it a bunch of little things that would otherwise be all over the place. And I say that for a reason, because you look at Daniel 12, there's this phrase where he says, until the completion of the fragmenting of the hands, or the crushing of the hands, the breaking into crumble of the yod, the hand, the power of the Kadosh people, all these things be accomplished. And to the end is like this full basket. So that's the inference of the letter Tet right there with Daniel 12. But my point is that, so there's this full basket represented by the letter Tet after the letter Het, and then Yod. And if Yod is a suffix letter, it means my, it makes it personal. So if I looked at the 10 letters of Aleph through Yod, if Aleph means I am or I will, and Yod makes it personal, then I can read these first 10 letters as his communication of his intent, of his plan, of his agenda, of what he's going to do. Now, so if he decides, I'm going to bet Gimel, I'm going to put myself somehow, however, whatever, his relationship between what we, the Christians, call father and son, he didn't give us definition, which is why we still argue, wrestle, contend, punch each other in the face about it, tell each other, if you believe that, you're going to burn in hell. If you believe that, you're a big stupid idiot. If you believe that, you're an infidel. I'm never going to speak to you again. It's like, he made it confusing. He made it confusing. We're having a human experience trying to understand what he didn't give our mind any ability to comprehend other than to determine what's in the 22 letters. So if I say Aleph is self-referential of the author, period. What's Bet? Bet is materialized cosmos, matter, human form, earth suit. Bet. I will somehow step into an earth suit, gimmeling the Dalet, running into this Zion of death, into the grave. Why? Why did he need to die? The doctrine says he had to redeem mankind. Listen, when he said, let there be light, Yehi Or, wham, Yehi Or, it happened. If he wanted to redeem mankind, he could have said, mankind is redeemed. Wham! Mankind is redeemed. He didn't have to build it and die, but he did. Somehow, because the fractal design of everything, when he said to Adam, if you eat this, you will die. The soul that sins will die. Death, whatever death truly is, the cessation of life of the breathing, living, heart-beating, conscious entity is part of the fractal fabric of the entire universe. And for him to come down and run this gauntlet of Resh Zadi, of Aleph through Tav, had to include the death. So for Yeshua to take on human consciousness, and then at the Garden of Gethsemane to say, gosh, now that I'm a human, I really don't want to do this. Is there any other way? Gosh, why did we come up with this plan? We? What is he saying? I'm just projecting a script. No, this isn't such a good plan after all. I don't like the look of this. Is this all we could do? We're going to, in a few minutes, look at the word Gethsemane and see some more into this. But in his humanity of consciousness, this really stinks. This really sucks. This is really... Nevertheless, this is the plan, this is the agenda, this is the Resh Zadi run of Aleph. Okay, I'll do this, but gosh, is there no other better way? Now, in his plan from the beginning, he goes into Zion, the death, into the tomb, Het, knowing, because the plan was, he's going to sprout back out. So Pe Zadi is the grave, the mouth of the grave opening up, and Zadi leaping out as a flourish, exhilaration, Kuf Resh Shin Tav. So this death is a process of an accomplishment. So why did he have to die? On the one hand, yeah, you can give a doctrinal answer to the redeemed man's sin and let him live. But what do the letters say? If he goes into the tomb at Tet, round rock rolled in front, Tet held, pinned shut, Yod. You got Kaf Lamed Mem. Kaf Lamed Mem as a word in the dictionary is where it sounds like KLM or calamity. It means by definition put to shame and humiliated. Okay, the living one brought to decomposition of destruction and ruin. That's being put to shame and humiliated, besides an attitude of scorn and reproach and mockery of, oh, who do you think you are? Yeah, take a load of this. Mem is this base dissolvement. Mem is water, but his body didn't turn into water. But I'm just saying there's these ideas. But Nun, by the alphabetic sequence, jumps out of Mem, like a picture of a fish jumping out of water. But Nun isn't fish. Dag is fish. Dalet Gimel. Nun isn't Dalet Gimel, but Nun means to invigorate, to restart, to multiply, to power out. So there's this picture of decomposing down to Mem and somehow turning things around. And Nun is this spark, this leap, this jumping up out of the depths of the grave, out of the depths of destruction, unto Zadi, bam, blowing out of the grave. So you've got, between Nun and Zadi, you've got Samak, Ayin, and Pe. Well, what do those letters mean? Somehow Samak, Ayin, Pe is this restructuring, rebuilding, so that when Pe opens up, the grave opens up, and Zadi leaps out like a flourish, a blossom, an explosion, because Pe Zadi literally means explosion, detonate, scattering. It's the word pizza, open mouth, and wow. That had to begin with Nun as a baby in a womb. So you've got two stages showing the development of birthing. There's the one at Aleph Bet embryonic shape, gimling through. Now Dalet is like this pelvis design, being born of Hay, which is the feminine suffix. So I can look at Dalet Hay and say, well, that's being born of a woman, as Vav, the man, the human man, birthed. I will birth myself through the birth canal of a woman, Zion, and then go through death. What? Why'd you do that? You idiot. No, wait a minute. When he designed the entire universe, the fractal reduction, the smallest little thing, gets down to electromagnetics, electron, proton, and even smaller than that, the concept of attraction and repulsion. To attract and to distract, to move apart. Well, that's Aleph and Bet. Bet is a prefix letter that means in, on, with, among, through, and against. With, but also against, both in the letter Bet. So just at Aleph and Bet, there was this preliminary idea of Aleph being one, everything silent and everything fine, the Echad, no contention. And soon as there's an other, there's like, oh, there's company, but oh, there's also conflict. It's electromagnetic duality, what we might call plus and minus. We could even say male and female, 1 and 2, but that boils down to the entire universe being established on a binary code. Part of this one of the concepts that I was going to try to develop, which we'll have to do the next hour if I can get here, is he says in Genesis 1:27 that he's going to create Adam in the image, which is Zadi Lamed Mem of Elohim, Zakar ve Nakava. Zion Kaf Resh, Zakar, like in Zechariah. Oh, that means to remember. Zakar also means male, masculine. And female, in this case, is the word Vav, meaning and, Nun Kuf Bet Hey, Nakava, Nakaba. So you look in Strong's, or Ernest Klein's dictionary, or even in Strong's, it'll say, well, Zakar is male, and Nun Kuf Bet is female. But Nun Kuf Bet is to have an orifice, to be pierced, to be perforated, punctured. And Zakar is also like a shovel, a knife, something which does the stabbing. So Zakar is to pierce, to take a shovel and pierce the earth, open it up and plant the seed. And the word Nun Kuf Bet is to be pierced. It's the idea of the digits 1 and 0, masculine and feminine. Okay? But Zakar means to remember, but it also means to mention, to fix in one's mind. It's the meaning of like a thorn or a briar which catches to your clothes, or a porcupine quill with a barb which sticks into your flesh that you can't get out. So when Yahuwah said, my name is, tell them Ehiyeh sent you, but Yahuwah is my Sem Zakar, my Shem Zakar, my masculine Zakar name, the name to stick in your mind that you can't get out, like trying to pull out a porcupine quill. It means to recall that you can't dislodge so easy, to pull it out of your brain. That's Zakar. But the word Nakav, if you look that up, it means to designate, to specify, to give a nominal price, but it also means to be cursed. So right there in the word male and female, 1 and 0, is also, I'm going to give you a stipulation to remember and specifically let you know that if you betray this, you're cursed. You're dead. 5 minutes. I see that sign. Thank you. Imagine that. The Hebrew words male and female literally is the instruction to human consciousness from the very beginning. You remember what I said, or you're going to die. That was the only instruction he ever gave to Adam, other than name the animals and tend the garden. Remember what I said about don't eat this tree, or you're going to die. So what I'm saying is that because that's built into I got to charge my battery up in a couple seconds. Because he has it built into the language, built into the fabric of the universe, that when he says something, as a human, we either go along with it or we die. For him to come down here and be human, he had to run that gamut. Because he had to blow through that. Because if you look at Zion Kaf Hey, just drop off the letter Resh from the word Zakar, it means clear, exonerated, acquitted, legal right, and privilege. If you look at Nun Kuf, drop off the bet, it means pure, innocent, clean, absolved of guilt. So what I'm saying is that you look at the Resh of Zakar, that's the honor man. You look at the bet means house, it means in, with, among, but it's a kind of a feminine, like a house, a home, something that you come into. There's something about femininity, which is like a nest, and there's something about the masculinity, which is like the lance. Again, the circle, the nest, and the lance, the piercing. This stuff is built into the fabric of the universe. And within that Resh Bet is built in also, you can be cleansed, legally cleared, exonerated, and acquitted of any guilt. So if the due mechanics of the universe is the soul that sins will die, also it can be cleansed. It can be exonerated and declared clean. And the interesting thing about the alphabet is the letters Het, Tet, Yod, which are the grave and the round rock, the full basket, literally means I have incurred guilt. I have a sin sacrifice who incurs my guilt for me so that I can be cleansed, exonerated, absolved of guilt, and restored to relationship. In the letters that spell Het, Tet, Yod. Astounding. So for Yeshua to become our sin sacrifice through that act of death is this act of cleansing. Well, what is cleansing? Goes back to electromagnetics. Why does water cleanse? Why does something get dirty? Because things attract because of electromagnetics. What cleanses them? Water somehow is this agent which breaks the bond and allows the things to pull back apart. Again, it goes back to the concept of betness. We're going to have to take a break. I have to charge up my phone. But what I'm saying is, why did he have to die? If he didn't, it would have destroyed the fractal essence of the entire universe, because the law, the way things are established, the way that electrons and protons either attract or distract is not only in the alphabet, in the language, in male and female, it's the way that atoms hold together. It's when I'm looking at a tree and a pine needle and a cloud, it's following the same rules and principles as why he had to die, because he's not going to bust the system that he went to all this trouble to make. And it includes death and then blowing through the other side of death, coming back to life, Nun Tazadi. He has to go from Aleph into Mem, which is also the word M, which is mother, which is if and on the condition, so that Nun Tazadi unto Resh. Nun Resh happens to be the word for light. The more you study the language and the more you look at the relationship of the letters, this becomes clearer and clearer. But it means the only way to really understand the question is to understand the language. And you have to start with A, B, C, 1, 2, 3. Aleph Bet Gimel, what does that mean? Ox house door. That's just where it starts.